The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
She slept with Texas and Oklahoma. She used to live with Arizona. She's been on top of New Mexico. She's been to bed with Louisiana and under Lower Alabama. But tonight Mississippi wouldn't touch her with a 10-foot pole. I could tell by the way that the clientele scattered when she walked in that bar alone that more than one man had gnawed off his own arm. 20 years ago she might have looked all right, but tonight she's warmed over hell. But if you'll look in her eyes and buy her some French fries, she'll beat you back to your hotel, 'cause she slept with Texas. She slept with Texas. She slept with the Lone Star State, but tonight she's gonna be with me. Oh, honey, you know how much I enjoyed looking at you as you walked into that two-stepping bar with that road-worn look and that rhinestone tube top. I admired you from afar, and I couldn't wait till closing time to get you out in that gravel parking lot and in the back seat of my car to drive it home back to Georgia, knowing good and well that we'd probably wind up related. She slept with Texas. She slept with Texas. She slept with the Lone Star State, and tomorrow she may be with you. Oh, she slept with Texas, but tonight she's gonna be with me in Arkansas.
Tim Wilson with She Slept with Texas. Welcome to the 44th edition of the Brain Sandwich Podcast. Mike Madonna here. Time for the movie reviews. I know that's what you're tuning in for this time, and probably for all the other times before, because this is the closest you're going to get to hearing Jim and Jay's voice on these podcasts for a little while anyway. We haven't been able to get together yet, although it is the new year. But keep checking the website, and I'll put an announcement up there if you want to join our mailing list, brainboys@aol.com and whatnot, and I'll keep you informed as to what our plans are in the future. All right, what are the reviews today? Well, you're going to hear The Confessional, The Carpenter, and Cellar Dwellers in that order. Talk to you later. Adios.
Are you guys watching those? Oh, hello, fathers. How
if
are
it
you?
isn't Jean.
Oh, if it isn't the red-headed
sweet Jean.
Hi, just another ray of sunshine, aren't you? How are you doing, me lassie?
Well, fathers, I'm doing just fine, thank you. But what brings you here?
Hi, we just stopped by to see the Brain Boys.
Yes, we know they're doing their movies tonight. We thought we'd come by and see them, but they aren't here, are they?
Oh,
Well, I don't really know where they are. I thought they
Well,
were here.
I bet you're happy that they're not doing those
Oh, don't even mention those movies, fathers. Don't even mention them.
I can understand
Yeah,
why
I
you'd be a
remember the
little
last
upset.
time we came in, they had that one with all the screaming. You remember that one?
Oh, well,
Oh,
I
no.
had nightmares for weeks
Yes,
after
I
that
did
one.
too.
Well, anyway, but I was really nice to see you. You're always a sight for these sore eyes.
Oh, you surely are. You remind me of me sister.
Well, fathers, you're always welcome here. I've got some homemade cookies in the refrigerator and some nice cold milk, so you just help yourselves.
Oh, that sounds real nice,
You know what we need, don't you?
Do you think you might have a little
Just
medicinal
a wee
stuff
nip.
for us?
Just a wee nip.
Oh, fathers, That's in the same old place. You know where.
Oh, you're a
You're
darling.
such
You
a
are. You're a
darling.
darling.
Well, good night.
Well, good night,
Lassie.
to you.
Good night, fathers.
Well, Father, I guess we should be watching this training film now, just so we can do it for the Brain Boys, you know.
Father, I'm a little worried about them with this training film. There's no way they should have this in their possession. Can you? I mean, I wasn't kidding before. Can you imagine what would happen if the Jesuits got wind of this? That someone.
Well, I know they'd probably
that
wrap
these
them on the
lunatics-
knuckles and things like that.
Hey, if they found out these lunatics smuggled a training film on confession out of the seminary, they'd be on them. Oh, you'd never hear
They'd be
the end
learning
of
all
it.
the tricks of the trade,
Oh, you couldn't
telling
have
all
that
the
kind
people
of
on the radio all about
You
it.
couldn't have that kind of thing. We got to do something to save them from themselves again.
I think we do.
Well, listen. Let's look at this and just see what the problem
All
is.
right,
here.
get the
Hey,
box there.
Oh, yes, okay. The confessional it is. It says... Oh, now, wait a minute now. It doesn't look like no training tape at all, Father.
Well, why is that?
It looks like a movie.
Well, it
Doesn't
was
look
sort of a
like-
movie that we saw when we were in school there.
Well, this is a different kind of movie, Father. This has got stars and stuff, you know? In
Oh.
fact, it's got a little description of this.
Okay,
It
well,
says-
we'll read it
It's
there.
about this priest who says confessions, Father.
Well, that sounds like the one I saw.
Well, yes, but this one, after he hears the confession of these young girls,
Uh-huh.
well...
Well, then he
they
gives them a
commit-
blessing, right?
No, not exactly, Father.
Well, then he must give them absolution, right?
Well, not what it says here, Father.
Well, let me see that.
You can read it.
Oh, my. He doesn't give them a blessing.
I know he doesn't, and he doesn't give him no
No, he
absolution
doesn't.
neither, no.
All he does is he runs around and he kills everybody. St. Patty preserve us. They're watching those god-awful movies again.
I don't understand it. I guide and advise young people all the time. Some of them attractive young girls. They come here. They still do. But I've never, well, not really wanted to. I've never wanted anything more. Until now. She reminds me of her. The voice, the first time I heard it. The manner, everything. I want her. Is it wrong? Of course it's wrong, but I can't control it.
The priest in here, he's got himself a problem, Father.
He better be controlling it, that's for sure.
This guy's really having problems. This, I think we should go ahead and review this movie because, if we let them brain boys come back and review this, they're going to get themselves in loads of trouble. We owe it to them this one time to go ahead, review this movie, and keep them out of serious, serious trouble, Father.
That's right, because there's some things in here that they're blasphemous. I'm
Oh,
telling you. I was
tell
watching
you.
it and I was having to hold my Bible up just to protect myself from this.
Well, listen, this movie. Now let's do the best we can to do this review, just the
certainly.
way they do it,
Sure.
But I didn't get a chance to take down any of the information about it. I don't know who starred in it. I don't know who produced it. I don't even care who produced it. I don't know nothing about that. But I did see something at the
Now, what's
very
that?
end. At the very end there, I saw something.
Yeah.
And it said, well, okay, I know what you're looking at. There were a couple people in it I wrote down because, well, the stars, Kim Butcher and an Alex Sharp. That now, I know that it's probably a pun because there were a lot of stabbings and stuff like that in the movie, but I don't know. I didn't think that was too good. But you know what really bothered me here? It said the sound production was done by Cinelingual Studios in London.
Wait a
Father.
minute. You
don't
can't
think
be
you can-
saying that on the radio.
No, I don't think we can be saying that.
You can't say
Cinelingual,
that.
You can't.
No, don't say it
We won't
again.
say- oh, no.
We're going to get in trouble now.
What are
The
we
Brain
gonna-
Boys could have got in trouble like that before. Now we're going to get in trouble.
Well, if you think that's bad, Father, what about at the end there when they say the transportation was furnished by Aer Lingus? We can't say that
We can't
either.
say that either.
Oh, what are we going to
I
do?
don't know. We'll just go on to something else.
I'm gaining appreciation for the Brain Boys and what they must be going through for these
right.
movie reviews every week.
Oh, I
They're
tell
not
you.
easy.
Yes, their
Oh,
souls
no.
are at stake, that's for sure.
Anyway, this movie is about a priest just like you and me, Father. Except
Well,
he's
not
got a-
exactly like
Not
you and me. I
exactly.
wouldn't be saying
oh,
that.
no, I didn't mean it that way. No, he just happens to be a priest that takes his job seriously, Father. And he has this thing at the beginning of the movie. He hears the confession of a young girl, and a young girl who's got herself in a little bit of trouble. Now, we've had them before. I told you about the father in the confession, didn't I?
Yes,
About
you
Father
did. You
McGee.
told me the whole story.
I'll tell you again. If
No,
you
I
want.
don't want to hear it
All right,
again. Don't
okay.
give us that.
I won't tell you about Father McGee, but it's
The people
true.
will be going to sleep out there again on
But
it.
it's true, every word of it.
Well,
is
I'm
true.
sure it is.
Right,
It's just a rumor.
You know McGee. You know he's
It's just
capable.
a rumor.
I know you know
Get
McGee
off
better
it.
than I do. You know. Okay.
It's
forget-
all right. Look,
all
I'm not
right,
going to give
all
you
right.
any more of them nips if you keep talking like
All right,
this.
all right. I won't
Your
take no
cookies,
more.
are good.
Hey, yeah, you should be going back on cookies and milk. I like the Irish whiskey myself. Anyway, this priest, he hears a confession from this young girl, and it stirs up a lot of prurient interest in him, Well, the first thing he does is go out and kill the boyfriend that helped her commit the mortal sins, Well, that starts his murderous rampage. And but that's not the worst of it. The rest of the movie, he runs around, he kills all kinds of people, Father.
He does.
I never heard of no priest acting like that. I don't know, where do they come up with this kind of stuff?
Well, it never comes up in the Sunday Circular. That's for sure. They don't put stuff like that in the Sunday Circular. They wouldn't be doing that. All the people think that all the priests are that way, and we'd never get anything done for the good Lord.
But, Father, you know that we don't believe what's in the bulletin anyway, Father, but we know. I mean, we're insiders. I never heard of no priest doing nothing like this.
I
got
don't
to be
know. You're
kidding.
probably right.
But the worst part
But
about
there's
it...
got to have been one or two that did stuff like this.
But, Father, listen, do you remember how this went? How this happened? He bashed one of their poor heads in with an incense burner.
He did. I saw him, and it was flaming and burning. It burnt his face off, and all the skin fell off, too.
Can you imagine that, swinging the censer around his head like David and Goliath? He bashes the guy in the skull and splits his skull open.
He did, but he
I've
smelled
never
pretty
heard
good,
of
though.
Nothing like this. What?
He smelled pretty good.
He smelled good, but he was deader than a doorknob.
Well, that's true. But then what about the other one there now? See, he grabs this poor lady by the throat with a rosary and strangles her to death with the big beads there.
That was the worst thing I've ever heard. I'm not so upset about that. Can you imagine some of the nuns up at the what they would do? What some
Oh,
of
my
the nuns
Lord,
would do?
their rosaries are 10 feet long.
I didn't mean it that way, Father.
Oh, wait.
I mean,
I thought you meant they were so big,
I mean, they'd be incensed if
They
they saw
probably
this.
would.
Or they'd be swinging them censers. Would they be?
You're
so
cut
incensed?
off. You're cut off. I'm going to go on here. But as
Wait a
long as
minute.
we're on the subject, we might as well get to the rest of the murders. It's blasphemous. I'm telling you, it really is. And the other one is he takes this poor woman who he's driven his daughter to commit suicide by jumping out the window. And she comes to have communion the other day because she thinks she's got something on the gold boy. And he gives her communion, and it's poisoned.
Oh,
and
he
it kills
did.
her. She chokes right there and dies in the church.
Oh, he did no such thing. He couldn't have done
He
nothing
did
like
it
that.
twice.
You're telling me he put a poison host.
He did. He poisoned the one, just the one, now not the
She
others.
comes to take the Holy Communion, and he poisons her all.
He
Father.
did, he
I don't
poisoned
believe
it. It
You
was
can't
right there. He
say-
did
I
it
don't
twice.
believe Nobody could put that in a movie, Father.
Well, that's just what I thought, but he did. He did it twice. He did it.
Oh.
Then he did it to his mother,
I must have been.
his own little mother, and then he gives her extreme unction right after that.
I must have gone in the kitchen for me.
I
shots
think
of
you was
medicine
winking
when
out.
that-
I think maybe you had
Oh.
a nip too early or something.
I'm glad I wasn't in here, Father. I might have had a stroke.
You shouldn't have seen it. It was horrible.
Oh,
I was
well.
thinking the whole time, Jesus, Mary and Joseph, they shouldn't be having this in a movie.
well, go on, Father. So what happened next? I don't want to dwell on the bad stuff.
Well, then what happened? It's this poor girl who he's trying to do the same thing to. He wants to get to this. Well, I'm not going to say what he wants to do to her, but you know what he wants to do to her. He's going to be poking some fun at her, that's for sure.
Oh, Father, you're getting a little lewd now.
Well, just a minute.
Just because the movie's like that doesn't mean you have to be like that.
Well, anyway,
You're a
just
minute-
the girl that he's going to do this to now, nobody believes her story. She says that he's a horrible person. Nobody believes her.
Well, he's no saint.
Well, we know that. But we're
Well.
watching the movie. See, the people in the movie, they don't know that. See, in fact, Father, there's a scene coming up here where he proves it, where he records this poor woman's confessional. Her that she's telling him all these things that she's doing of a
Oh.
sexual nature.
He didn't record her.
He did. He had it right
recorded her
there.
in the confession box.
He had it right there next to
Oh.
him. He was running it up a fast forwarding and everything.
I think I'm feeling faint.
Well, you should be. It's a terrible thing. Well, here it comes
Oh.
here. You can see what he does, and he makes an excuse for it here. It's coming up.
Tell me everything.
I had an abortion a few months ago.
He forced you.
I shouldn't have come here. It was all a mistake.
Don't go.
You have no right.
I have every right. I was put on this earth to combat sin, and I shall use every available means to do so.
That's a breach of a basic Catholic ethic.
Only if someone else hears it.
He's got a point there, Father. But you know, it's pretty underhanded to do that to anybody, actually.
I don't know, Father. I'm not sure I understand this. Is he trying to say that if ethics are breached in the forest and nobody hears it, it's not a breach of ethics?
I believe that's what he's trying to tell us
don't know,
in his
huh?
roundabout sort of way.
Haven't we been through that argument before?
Maybe
Bishop
so.
Berkeley made a very similar statement at one time. Remember?
Is that right?
Yes. Well, let's not get into that now.
Okay, you're
But
right.
No, we don't
Yeah,
have
the
time
Brain
for
Boys
this.
wouldn't do this, so we better not do this.
Okay.
We don't
Well,
want to
go
make
on.
this a forum for the priests, now do we?
Go ahead. Go talk some more. I'm.
Oh, I know what I wanted to tell you about. He had a housekeeper.
Oh, I don't
She
want
was-
to talk about. If I had a housekeeper like that, I would be like him too. I'd be as loony as a madman like he is as a housekeeper. She had a big black patch on her eye.
She did, and when she took it off, I don't even want to talk about it. It was horrible.
Oh, it was horrible.
It had little. I'm not going to talk about it.
No. Let's talk about something nice. Do you remember the apple pies Mrs. Greenlow used to make?
I did. They were the
They were
delicious.
so good.
The crust that just melted in your mouth, you know.
But she didn't wear no
It's-
patch like that.
No, she
This one
didn't.
looked like a national
Especially
socialist.
when she with the hairs and things that were. Oh no, I don't want to talk about.
Don't talk about
No, it was
It's too
horrible.
horrible.
I don't want to talk about. She looks like a Nazi anyway.
That's what I said, Father. I just said she looks like a national socialist.
No, you didn't. You said it looked like
I
Mrs.
did.
O'Leary's pies. You said.
I didn't say she looked like Mrs. O'Leary's. But she don't look nothing like one of Mrs. It was Mrs. Greenlow.
Oh, Greenlow, sure. Oh, that's right. It was Mrs.
O'Leary's
Greenlow.
cow was the one that kicked over the,
That's
the
right.
lantern. Now, you
That's
got
right,
your
from a
O'Leary's
different
in-
parts of the
Yeah,
country.
Sure, and be
Well,
going.
she still looked like a Nazi.
We're getting away from this.
We
Now,
are.
Go on with what you were saying.
So anyway, she's in it with him, and it turns out in the end that the housekeeper has been in love with the father for 30 years, and she wanted to marry him before he went into the house of the Lord, but his mother told him he couldn't.
Oh, and that's why she was so mean to his poor mother.
That's right.
I was wondering what her motivation was. She was so nasty to the poor old woman who had palsy of some kind.
She did. I think she had Parkinson's
Oh, maybe
disease or
she did.
something like that.
Whatever she
Shaking
was.
all the time, couldn't talk at all.
She was a mess.
So she could do anything she wanted to, and she couldn't tell her son that she was doing this to him.
It's just the worst thing I ever did see.
It's this movie, I'll tell you.
The worst thing about this movie, though, the priest never got his comeuppance.
He didn't. He walked out the door.
scot-free at
He
the
did.
end.
It just said the end.
And he was, you know what he was going? He was going to go kill that young girl, the last
He was.
one there.
Yes, he was. Well, he would maybe not kill her, but he certainly was going to give her some trouble.
let's
I'm not
talk
going to
about
get
it.
into
No,
that
no.
again.
Let's not get into
With the eyeball that was hanging. No.
No,
I
we
don't
talk
want to get
about
into that either.
Or the ice pick that went into the other.
Yeah, no. We don't have. Don't want to talk about that stuff.
Okay.
Well, you know, Father, they might not want to talk about it, but if they wanted to go all the way, they didn't take this movie as far as they could have. You know what they should have had in there? They should have had somebody like skewering someone with a holy candle and into his gullet and slitting him right up to his throat, or
what are
maybe
you saying
slamming
here,
his
Father?
head in the tabernacle there and
Father.
slicing his head clean
Father.
off, or
Father.
maybe beating him senseless with a collection basket or something like that.
Father, you must be losing your mind. You've been
What you
watching
mean
this
it's no
movie
worse
too
than
long.
all the other stuff they had in that movie?
Well, I tell you what, if you wanted something really bad, they should have had Mrs. O'Leary bring some of her stew.
What's that got to do with a movie?
Well, you know, you should know. You've been here in this rectory for 25 years. She's been bringing stew to us every Sunday.
Oh.
Now, that's real horror for
Oh,
you.
you're right. I'd forgotten about that. But look, we're getting off the track here.
Better get around to giving this movie a rating. You
Yes,
know, the
we
Brain
should.
Boys, they always want you to do a rating.
But you know, we got in trouble last time, don't you remember?
Oh,
We
that's-
called it Labradors. They said that it was wrong.
I don't know what they call it. It's something stupid. Oh, it's
Well,
laboratories or
it's
something.
No, it's not laboratories.
It's
It's
something
something
like
like that. It's like
It's
Lavazzi.
Lavazzi.
Lavazzi,
That's
that's
what it
it.
is. We'll
That's
rate it on-
Yes,
okay.
and I'm going to give it one Lavazzi. I'll tell you, anything that ridicules the church the way this did, it's sacrilegious, I'll tell you, and it doesn't deserve any more than one.
I couldn't agree with you more, Father. I'm only going to give it one Lavazzi myself. It's because it borders on the blasphemous, it does.
It
and
does,
it brings
indeed.
ridicule down on the orders, and I just can't take that. One Lavazzi.
Okay, well, I guess that's about it.
I suppose that's it for the Brain Sandwich movie review for today.
And
Who is it that supplies the movies to these fools?
I believe it's Metro Video down there
yes, it
in
is.
the West End.
Central West End.
Yes, it is.
4491 Forest Park
That's it,
Boulevard.
that's it. That's on the card
Metro
there.
Video, I know
Yes.
them. Thank you to Metro Video. May God bless you.
You know, Father.
Are we done here?
Yeah, I think
Are we
but,
done?
You know, I was
Okay.
thinking, you know,
Yes.
while we're doing this thing,
Uh-huh.
you know, we really shouldn't be lying about this now, you know,
Well,
because there was something
yeah,
that I
you
liked
know.
about this film. I don't know. I mean, I found myself kind of laughing inside, when he choked him with a rosary.
Well, Father, I was thinking sort of the same thing. It's against the commandments to lie as well. So
It is.
even though I have to have reservations about this, Father, I'm going to have to kick my rating up a little bit. Just between you and me,
Well, I know what
If
you
it
mean.
was up to, but
there's a certain something about that,
I
that
know.
you can laugh at, 'cause there's like an inside joke,
I know, but publicly we can only
no,
give
we
it one
couldn't do it
Lavazzi.
publicly.
But in private between you
Well,
and
I
me,
could give it maybe 3
I
Lavazzis,
would give it
I think.
four Lavazzis.
Four Lavazzis?
4 Lavazzis, yes, Father.
I don't think it deserves 4
Oh,
Lavazzis.
Father.
I think you're going off the deep end
no,
again.
You're not seeing any of the you don't see the symbolism
Well,
in
I
it,
see a
Father.
little bit
You
of
don't
the
see nothing of the symbolism at all.
Oh,
You-
look,
you
every
only
time
look on the surface of these
Every
movies.
time you have
don't
a
look-
couple of nips to the
Oh,
thing,
you don't even
you'd
be.
give the Blue
you-
Nun commercials
you-
4 Lavazzis
Ah,
if you watch
could-
them.
You can't look under. Don't give me that. You can't look beneath the surface of
Look,
nothing.
okay, maybe there was a
Ain't got
few
a
things
brain
about it, but it's
one.
not worth that
Oh,
much.
come on,
Not
go-
4 Lavazzis.
Go sit on a potato.
Go sit up, what? Well, you too, every time you take drinks and all that stuff, you start telling people to go sit on potatoes. Someday someone's going to tell the bishop, and you're going to get in trouble, you are.
No one has to tell him. I'm going to go tell him myself.
What do you mean you're going to go tell him yourself? Tell him what?
I'm going to tell him to go sit on a potato.
Oh, hair.
Oh, Tool.
When the eyes are smiling.
Oh, it's like the morning.
How's it go again?
It's
It's
like
the
the
world
Irish
is
dew.
bright and gay. isn't
No,
it?
it's the Irish dew.
No, it's when the
It's
world
the
is
morning
bright and
dew.
gay.
It's the morning dew, I think it is.
Are you guys watching those god-awful movies again?
Oh, no, of course not. No,
We're watching It's a Wonderful Life, huh,
That's
Jay?
right, with Jimmy Stewart.
And Donna Reed.
It's our favorite.
Jim, what are you doing down here watching this movie? You should be upstairs making those shelves you promised.
Well, Gene, I just don't have time. I mean, I've got to watch this movie. I mean,
That's
this is
right.
something that we do every week.
That's right,
I've got to
Gene.
do it.
You have
He's
got,
got
to build
obligations.
those shelves. The baby's going to be here any day. We don't know when. We got to get those shelves built.
But Gene,
He's got
I've
obligations,
Look,
Gene.
we've got to do this. We got to do it for the show. It's important. We got to watch
All
this
right,
every week.
Fine. Tomorrow, I'm just going to call a carpenter and
No,
take care of it.
no, don't do that. No. Look, right after the movie, Gene, I'm gonna go up. I'll nail real quiet. I mean, just don't call the carpenter, please. Don't call the carpenter, really. I'll do it.
Okay then. Well, all right, guys. Well, good night then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good night.
Right.
Oh boy.
What got
Oh.
you so excited? All she said was she's going to call a carpenter.
Yeah. No.
relax,
She can't do the carpenter. No.
Relax.
Oh.
Relax.
Oh.
What is the matter?
Oh, Jay, if you
What?
saw this movie,
What?
that's what I got tonight. This
Oh,
movie's
yeah?
called The Carpenter, see?
Oh,
And
no.
if you saw it, once you see it, you're going to understand why. Because, this guy, this woman has this whole house that she's fixing
Yeah?
up. And she has this husband, see? And he's cheating on her. He's not very nice to her. But anyway, they decide to call this carpenter, see?
Yeah?
Yeah? And...
So what?
Well, that's the problem. See, this carpenter brings all his tools. Brings his saw, and brings his ramset gun, he brings his planer and his drill, and he brings all the stuff that he needs to build the house.
So he fixes the house, right?
Well, no, that's the problem. See,
No.
he brings all that stuff, and all he does through the whole movie is just run around
Oh,
and he kills everybody. Right?
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Let's put it in.
Okay.
Yeah, fascinating history of this house.
How's that?
Funny kind of story. First heard of it when I was a kid.
Well, what is it?
Well, the way it happened was this guy bought a bit of land to build a house on. This house. Guy named Ed Burton. Hell, Ed was a carpenter by trade, small time but good. Everyone pretty much agreed that Ed was a nice enough guy, except had a bit of a temper. Wild temper. So, Ed started taking out all these loans all over the place for material rentals, that kind of thing. And he gets building his house. Wouldn't hire nobody to help him with it or nothing. Wanted to do it all by himself. Man,
Please do.
thank you. I love the sugar ones. Anyway, Towels got to be a bit of an obsession with good old Ed. He worked long, long hours. Want to make everything perfect.
Excuse me.
Well, sure. Since he was only working on the house, he wasn't bringing in any other money. A year later, the house still wasn't finished. Before his creditors came down, repossessed with the goods, it didn't look like Ed was going to pay up. Well, Ed went a bit nuts about them. Couldn't deal with the place not being finished. And that timber is. Started killing a few repo men. Started killing them in the most disgusting, hideous ways you can imagine. Killed himself 6 or 7 before they could nail him. You hear that? It's the screams of repo man lost his head. Man ripped to pieces. Man killed without mercy. Man torn asunder. That'll be the tea.
So what happened to him?
Went to the chair. Never did get to finish the place properly. In fact, no one's finished it properly till now.
It's terrible. It's so sad. He sounds like such a nice man.
Well, that's a funny way to look at a psychotic mass murderer.
Oh, Jay, that wonderful performance that you just heard, that was the sheriff, Jay, coming to talk to the new neighbors in town who have come and just moved into the neighborhood and bought this old house, and they're fixing it up. And he decided to just make her life a little bit more pleasant by telling her about Ed. Well, she already had met Ed by this point.
You mean at the time when he cut the guy's arms off with a chainsaw?
Well, that's right, Jay, but it was a good, clean cut. You know, it didn't need any planing or sanding after he did it. It was a good cut. I mean, the guy was a good carpenter.
Jim, you can see he's a good carpenter, but if they had a bad director, you could see the guy's arms tucked inside of the shirt while he was bleeding.
Jay, I mean, come on, you have to use your imagination on some of these things. But, Jay, this was an interesting movie. Now, you know, they could have done it from any angle they wanted to. You know, they could have really made it. I mean, well, okay, let me put it this way. It could have been really interesting. Unfortunately, it wasn't. But it was interesting in that, you know, the way they dealt with it. This guy's dead. Ed's dead, okay? And they move into the house, and she's just come out of a psycho ward. You know, she had a nervous breakdown. Well, her husband said it was a nervous breakdown. He found her in his bedroom cutting his suits into little strips. Jay, I liked it. I think it was a statement more than a breakdown, you know, but that's beside the point. That's a whole other story. But anyway, so they move into the house, and at night, this guy, she finds him in the basement working on their basement, you know, putting boards up and finishing things. She goes, "Well, that's odd. What are you doing here?" You know, and he said, "Well, gotta get it done. You know, this work is work. You know, when it's done, it's done. You know, this is important." And she goes, "Okay, fine." You know, so she goes up. Well, this guy, one of the carpenters that are there during the day, decides that he kind of likes her, and he gets a little drunk, and he comes back at night, finds out that her husband's not going to be there, and tries to force his affections upon her. Well, Ed comes up the stairs, and this one he cuts his arms off with the power saw. And it was like a dream, you know. You didn't really know if Ed was real because, you know, the next day there was no blood on the floor. The guy didn't scream when he cut his arms off. And yet, the guy wasn't there either. And the foreman said, "Hey, we lost a guy last night. We don't know where he went. You know, he's gone, so we're going to have to go a little slower." So you don't know what's going on until later on. Now, well, Ed finally, you hear the story about him, how he used to, you know, do the house, and he killed all these creditors, and then he got killed. Well, everybody else can end up seeing him, too. Her sister ends up seeing him. The husband ends up seeing him. The girlfriend ends up seeing him. So he's not a figment. He's become real. And you realize Well, I'm not sure what you realize, but it was
I
a real
realize that-
interesting way to deal with this, Jay.
What I realize is that you don't have the slightest idea what you're talking about. You've been talking for 3 minutes here. You haven't said one word. This is a ludicrous movie. It's really stupid. Just because you know how to build a porch doesn't... Stop it. Just quit it. Just because you know how to build a porch doesn't mean that you can tell a good movie from a bad movie, and obviously you can't, because this is a bad movie.
Oh, Jay, come on. Now, there was a lot of good things about this movie. The guy knew how to use a planer. I mean, you know...
Yeah, to take somebody's nose off, which is what he did with it.
No, he
Tell me
did
about
other
how-
things with it,
Yeah,
too.
he stapled the other guy's eyes shut with a power stapler. That was fun, too, Jim. This was a lovely, delightful movie.
But he did finish the whole house at night. You know, it was all kind of a mess when he moved in. And, boy, one night he worked real hard. They had a good long talk. And he
It
finished
was a
the whole
mess
house.
when they left. There were bodies strewn from one end of the house to the other. They were in the basement. They were in the living room. One of them was nailed to the floor. What are you
Well,
talking about?
Yeah, I know. Well, my favorite scene, though, really, was when he used the drill, and it was so nonchalant. It was great. You know, he's just drilled this guy through the throat, stapled his eyelids shut with the staple gun, drilled him through the throat. He's got him laying on the floor, and he's sitting there and he's drilling holes into his body. And she comes down and goes, "What are you doing, Ed?" "Well, you got to, you know, when you start a job, you just got to take it to the end. You can't just leave it half done." And he's drilling holes in his chest. It's great.
Well, I love that scene, too, Jim. And actually, we have that one on tape. I think we can actually give the audience a flavor of that scene.
Okay.
Coming up here.
You really should do something about that temper of yours, Ed.
Mrs. Jarrett.
Call me Alice.
Oh. Good evening.
Do you really think that's necessary?
Oh, well, I don't like to leave things half done. I mean, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it right.
It's a bit messy, don't you think?
Oh, no, don't worry about this. I'll fix it up.
I love the job you did on the house. It's quality work.
Well, thank you. You know, if you do something right, it stays right.
Well, you certainly did something right.
Yeah, that's the trouble these days. People do not take the time to do something right. I mean, they're always looking for the fastest way or the cheapest way, and what you end up with then is shoddy workmanship and people living in little cardboard boxes.
Well, people have different things on their minds. It's a modern world, Ed.
Modern world. Aluminum siding, ma'am. I mean, there used to be a time when a man took pride in what he did. Now all you got is a bunch of smart-ass cop... Oh, I'm sorry. Pardon my language.
That's quite all right.
You see, nowadays you don't have craftsmen. People are lazy. People are soft. People are scared of work. I mean, take a look at this guy. Watch this. See? See what I mean? Soft.
That's great, Jay.
Yeah,
I don't know.
well,
He
Jim,
just
what
drilled
happened-
another hole in his
But
chest.
if you notice that, Jim, the drill bent when he
I
went into
know,
it.
I
So
saw it,
it's
but
really the bits
it's
soft.
okay. But the whole thing is just so ludicrous and funny.
It's beautiful sentiments. And, you know, Jim,
It
we
is.
didn't mention that those sentiments come from the wonderful Wings Hauser, who's the star of this
That's
thing.
right.
Straight from his performance as the psychotic pimp on Vice Squad or whatever the name of that movie was, and a number of other things he's been in. But he always plays a psycho, Jim. Sometimes he's a good psycho, and sometimes he's a bad psycho.
He doesn't like to do
but he's
things
always a
halfway,
psycho.
Jay.
That's right.
You got to do it right. You
Well,
know?
he does it all the way in this one, Jim. He's a great psycho, but it's a bad movie.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what was wrong with it, Jay. Is that there was a couple things. Number one, there was a little interesting. Well, at the end you realize what it is, but they didn't play it up enough so that you knew what was going on. What happens is that it ends up that whenever you did something to the house, it would like hurt him, okay? And you saw it just one brief time when this guy walked down the steps and he like took a knife and he was scraping it along the wall, and then you saw Ed there with his arm bleeding. Well, I picked up on it, but most people might not. You know, it was very subtle.
It would have been interesting if they had to change the pipes.
Yeah. Now. Anyway, so at the end, they realize that if they hit, Ed turns kind of strange, weird, they don't like him anymore. Suddenly he's not the wonderful carpenter that she thought he was.
Well, that's because he practically killed her sister.
Yeah.
And
well,
tried
that's
to
what
kill her
set him
too.
up. She didn't care when he killed her husband. He took this vice, Jay. And at first he took a couple of awls and stuck them through his hands into the floor so he couldn't move. Then he took a wooden vise that he used for clamping pieces together, and he just kept tightening them around his head while he called him various words that we can't put on the air. And finally his head popped. It was
Gracie, I'm sure is one of your favorite scenes. What else do you like about the movie?
Well, but anyway, so at the end, they start beating on the house, and they ended up, they burn it down, and it's too bad because it was a really neat house.
But it was a really stupid scene, Jim, that one where the sister who had been knocked unconscious by the carpenter managed to revive herself, and then just at the last minute she attacks him with some kind of hatchet or something, and she's chopping at the carpenter, and of course the sister says, "Oh, don't chop him, chop the house." So in other words, she starts chopping the walls down, and then of course he starts falling over in convulsions and on his way to his demise. But it was dumb. It was really stupid, although I loved Wings Hauser.
I don't know. I just thought it was a neat twist that, that he and the house were like one, and it was he had a real love there. Unfortunately, he was a psycho, even though he loved the house. Well, we keep coming back to this scene, Jay. This is one of my favorites. There's the husband is making it with one of his students. He's a teacher. He teaches some course about Paul Bunyan. I never did quite understand what he was teaching.
I don't either. We're going to play that scene in a minute.
Okay. Well, you can talk about it, but I don't know. I had a love interest, but a side love interest that really made things kind of sticky. I mean, the situation was sticky is what I mean.
Stop it. Anyway,
yeah.
The Paul Bunyan scene I was talking about shows how this guy, just like you, Jim, can take a simple little story and turn it into something preposterous, sophomoric, and inane. It's coming up in just a second.
Aspect worthy of careful note is the pronounced masculinity factor in Paul Bunyan. As a matter of fact, it can be said that Paul embodies, in the extremes of course, every masculinity trait that was valued at the time of his conception. Slide. Now, Paul was a woodcutter, an occupation obviously associated with robust masculinity, but he was also a giant. He was exaggerated, made immense. Slide, please. Now, the man's companion was a big blue ox, a bull of sorts, a super animal with obvious male implication. But the threat of modern technological lifestyle to Paul Bunyan's brand of masculinity. All right, we'll pick it up next time.
Well, we're saved by the bell on that one, Jim. But before you
I don't
laugh
know, Jay,
at
I was
that,
kind of getting into that.
Yeah, I know that, Jim, and I know you're laughing, but I remember out in California, Jim, the Trees of Mystery. You remember them?
Oh,
Up
yeah.
in Northern California?
Yeah,
you remember
great
what was
place.
remember the Trees of Mystery?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, what was right out in front? What was the prominent feature of the Trees of Mystery?
Well, you could talk to Paul Bunyan.
Well, yes, you could. And you were fascinated by that, by Paul Bunyan and by the Blue Ox. Babe, I believe was his
Babe
name.
was right there next to him, Jay, and you could actually swing from his,
I know, Jim. In fact, you did swing from his well.
Well,
and you
I did.
embarrassed the heck out
But
of me.
Jay, they were there. I mean, and they were within reach.
Hey,
I mean,
how many did you have to swing on?
2.
Never mind. It doesn't make any
Well,
difference.
look, Jay, you're right though.
I'm sorry
you're
I
right.
ever brought it up.
Well, okay, you're right though. It was stupid. But I'll tell you my favorite scene though, Jay. I mean, we just have to get maybe one more in because we're getting long. But my favorite scene was when the wife goes for a job interview, and and I don't know why anybody would hire her, but this is such a great scene that we're gonna have to play just a little bit of it, okay?
Okay, John.
Any retail experience at all?
No, but I'm very good with people.
Good. What's your education? Do you have any chemistry? Paint is chemistry. You know that.
Yes. Liberal arts, mostly.
What about health problems? Anything that we should know?
Well, I recently recovered from a nervous breakdown that had me in the hospital for several weeks, and sometimes I see things that can't really be happening, but I know that, so I don't think it's really anything that will interfere with my job.
Fine. I think you'll do. When can you start?
That was easy, wasn't it, Jay?
Jim, it reminds me a whole lot of the interview we had with Kevin when we hired him for the engineering
Oh, yeah, it
job.
does. Yeah, a lot like that. But I love that scene. I think that's great. I'm kind of a psycho, but I don't think it'll interfere with my job. This is great. I'll tell you, I just want to wrap it up, Jay. I mean, if people are expecting, a murder a minute, a real fast-paced movie, this is not the one. It's not for them. It's just kind of curiously interesting. I found it kind of curiously interesting. And for that reason, I'm going to give it 3.5 lobotomies, Jay. Not a great movie. This is Canadian, made in 1987. So,
Well,
I
actually,
liked it.
Jim, I like the movie. The more we talk about it, the better I like it, too. Originally, I thought it was really stupid, but it's probably not as bad as I originally thought it was. I don't think it's 3.5. I'll give it 2.5 lobotomies. It's just better than average. It is a nice little psychological thriller in its own way, and Wings Hauser redeems the movie. Otherwise, it's not that good. But Wings Hauser does a wonderful job nailing people to the floor, stapling their eyelids, and making their brains pop out.
Yeah, it takes a while to get rolling, but and you don't even care that the husband gets it because he's a real jerk anyway. And you were hoping he'd be first, but he was like fourth, So that's what it is. So I don't know, anything else?
No, that's it. We want to thank Star Video at 3117 South Grand. Is it 3117 South
That's
Grand?
where it's at.
Okay, for the use of the movie this week.
Are you guys watching those god-awful movies again?
No. We're watching It's a Wonderful Life.
That's
right
at
home with Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed. It's our favorite.
What are you guys doing up here? You guys should be down in the cellar cleaning it. It's a mess.
Oh, we've been down there for hours, Gene. We're dirty. We're filthy. We got stuff cluttered from one end of the basement to the other. We're trying to throw all the bad stuff out.
Jay won't let me throw any of it out.
It is all your junk. You've got to get rid of it. I can't even get to the washer.
I agree, Gene. I think it's real important to have a clean basement. Yes, sirree, Bob.
Oh, Jim, you be quiet. Half that stuff is yours.
Oh, well.
Oh, yes. Well, see?
Well,
You mean
okay,
tomorrow.
all right.
Okay,
You got
good.
me that time. But
I'll tell you what. We'll go down there and get it done right away. We'll go down right now.
Right after this.
Yeah, when we're
No,
finished
you
here.
guys are going down now. I don't care if you guys have to become cellar dwellers. I want that basement spotless before I go to bed tonight. Good
Okay.
night.
Good night.
Oh, boy, Jay, she's mad.
Yeah, I know. Is she gone?
But, yeah,
That's
but
the
you
big
know
thing.
what's great?
What?
Is she said it.
She said what?
Well, the name of the movie, of course.
You mean you got a movie called Junk Piled to the Ceiling?
Yeah, Junk Piled to the Ceiling Part 2.
Oh,
No,
I
that's
heard
not
part
it.
one, even.
Cellar Dweller.
Cellar Dweller?
Yeah, that's what
Oh,
she
yeah?
said. That's why it was
Oh,
so
I see.
funny.
Yeah, okay, what's it about?
Well, it's great. It's great. It's about this guy that's a cartoonist, see?
Yeah?
And he does all his work down in the basement of this kind of institute for artists, you know?
Yeah.
And so he starts drawing this figure, this ugly
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
just big monster with this kind of devil sign on his chest.
Yeah.
And then after he draws it, he doesn't know it, but it kind of comes to life and it jumps off the page and it starts running all over the place.
Oh, I know, and it serves tea and crumpets.
No, it doesn't. It
Oh.
runs around
Oh,
and
it
kills everybody, right?
Oh, let's put it in.
Yeah.
Philip, the curse is real.
What curse? What are you saying?
It threatens anybody who dares to give the beast form, don't you see? I drew it. I gave it life, and now Amanda is gone, and Norman is gone.
Wait,
and I don't
wait
know.
a minute. Are you trying to say to me that a monster you drew just stepped off the page and devoured Amanda and Norman?
That's right, Jay. The monster jumps off the page, and this movie jumps right from the beginning, and it never stops. Wonderful movie, very slickly produced, from New World Video, and all-star cast. Vince Edwards, Jay, Yvonne DiCarlo in a cameo role as the matronly owner and manager of this art school, and Pino Buddy, Jay, is in this, and not to mention Enzo Sisti. I wouldn't mention him normally, but you know how I am with names. Jay, this movie, like I said, it was very slickly produced, and what it did, it used the actual drawings of this cartoonist. But that was 30 years ago. He gets killed, and now it's 30 years later, and this woman is now very interested in this man's work, and she's come back to find out and to kind of emulate his work and start this series up again that he had been working on his whole life. Well, it ends up she finds his secret, draws this creature again, and boom, it's back to life, and it's running around, it's killing everybody, tearing people's heads off. And it's just amazing, Jay. It's really good, well filmed, well acted, I thought, and just a good movie overall.
Jim, you talked about the cartoonist earlier, and you said that no one ever really heard of him. You know why that is?
No, I didn't say that. I said I didn't know who he was.
No, nobody knows who he was. Jim,
Well, I'm sure he
there's
got
a very
credit in
good
the
reason.
movie. I'm sure he got credit. I just didn't.
No, Jim, he rejected credit. They offered him credit in the movie. He said, no, I'd rather not be associated with the movie. Now, they mentioned the same thing to the leading actress there. They said, would you like to have your name mentioned in this movie? She said, no, I don't want to be involved in this either. And the leading man, too, Jim. In fact, if you noticed, there's nobody on here. There's nobody listed as being in this movie except for Yvonne DiCarlo from the Munsters and Vince Edwards. Man, woman, birth, death, bad acting.
Jay, I don't know. There's something about this movie. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it's going to come to me in a minute.
Jim, you wouldn't want to put your finger on it.
Well,
I mean, you don't know where those fingers have been. I mean, look at this movie. Just listen to this. This is one of the worst scenes, the stupidest scenes I've ever seen in a movie. Listen to this.
All right.
Sorry. Did I wake you?
Jim, it's the middle of the night. They're in this little art school someplace. This woman is screaming. She's just screaming. It's blood-curdling, yelling. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. She's startled out of bed. She walks around this building trying to find the source of the screaming. And, I mean, it's loud. It's awful. She finally walks out to the front door, opens the front door, and there's this other woman, another student, just standing there screaming at the top of her lungs. That's what you heard, all those screams. Then she goes out there, and the woman turns around and says, oh, I'm sorry, did I wake you? Of course she woke her up. She was screaming at 1,000,000 decibels. So then, of course, what do? They sit down on the front porch, never even talk about the screaming or why this woman was out there yelling, and they just sat around and talked woman talk and drank a bottle of wine. No explanation, no nothing. It's just really dumb.
Jay, it was primal scream therapy. She did mention that it was good for her. It kind of, got everything out of her system and, all her frustrations and everything, and then she felt better, And then they got drunk together, and then it was fine.
I think she screamed her brains out, that's for sure, but I don't know about the rest of it.
I'll tell you, that part especially, too, the whole thing just reminds me of something. Darn it,
Well, I don't know. You'll think of it, Jim. I know you'll think of it.
Can't put my finger on it.
I know. There's more stupid stuff in the movie, too, Jim. Now, what did you say the name of the screenwriter was?
Pino Buddy, Jay.
How do you spell that?
B-U-T-T-I.
Okay, well, you can tell that this guy wrote this script in the scene coming up.
Okay, according to the curse, the beast is spawned by man's imagination. Although it's literally been injecting creative energy to keep itself alive. Michalski's, Lisa's, and Amanda's.
Amanda, she's gonna get that thing diarrhea. Wait, what are we gonna do?
Jay.
Okay, Jim, so I couldn't resist a cheap shot.
Jay, that's bad.
Well, Jim, what are you talking about? Here you spend this whole time talking about Pino Buddy. That's your one reason for liking this
Not
movie.
the one reason. I told you.
The other one's the one you're trying to think of.
Well, no, I said because it was good acting. The drawings were really neat.
All right, never mind. Don't worry.
There were nice looking women.
Okay, that's enough.
But it came to me, Jay. It's just the sordidness and just all the imagery and everything.
Yeah.
It just came to me. It really reminds me of the works of Dylan.
Oh, come on. Jim, Dylan Thomas? You're going to say Dylan Thomas, one of the finest, the modern lyric poets, the strongest lyric poet of this century? And you're going to say this stupid movie reminds you of that? How could this possibly compare to something like, do not go gentle into that good night, rage, rage against the dying of the light? How can you possibly do this? He was a fine Irish poet, Jim.
Jay.
And this is a stupid Spanish movie. I mean, it's just dumb.
Not Dylan Thomas. Bob Dylan.
Oh,
Bob Dylan, Jay. I mean, it's like one of his story songs. I can just hear him doing it. I can hear him doing the soundtrack right now. I drew a frog on the side of a darkened road, and he came to life as a demonic toad, and before I knew it, he'd bit off somebody's head. Oh, mama! It's just so incredible, Jay. I give it 4 lobotomies.
Oh, once upon a time, Finley lost his mind, and I think we're going to find it at the place that he sits down. 1 lobotomy.
Thanks to Star Video at 3143 South Grand.
And thanks
for the lawn of the
again,
movie.
dubiously, to Jim and Ron.
Right.